Yo, I'm fucking dead. I was at a rager for New Year's, and some asshole gave me the flu. If I ever find him, I'm gonna kill him. At the moment, I don't really feel like doing anything too intense, so I'm gonna talk about the 31 Days of Buckethead. From December 1st to the 31st, I listen to a new album by the musician Buckethead every day. Normally I do this with other bands, but it's just the 24 days leading up to Christmas. However, Buckethead has exactly 31 studio albums, and there are exactly 31 studio days of Christmas. I'm just gonna give my extremely brief thoughts on each album, because there are 31 of these fucking things.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Welcome to Buckethead.
Number 1. Bucketheadland. Buckethead's first album is really good. It was also my first time listening to it as well. It is split up into 8 distinct chapters: Intro, Giant Robot, Bucket Bot's Jig, Slaughter Zone, Computer Master, Virtual Reality, Home Run Derby, and I Love My Parents. It was centered around the fictional abusement park known as Bucketheadland. Some standout tracks off the album are the park theme and Virtual Reality Parts 1 and 2 performed by Bootsy Collins' rubber band music. Overall, I really liked this album. It's very experimental, with the Slaughter Zone consisting of guitar noises and sound effects. Some songs use samples from the Japanese TV show Giant Robo, as well as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971. It's a weird and sometimes ugly album, but overall a fun ride. There's also a second disc to the album containing some remixes of previous songs, but it was nothing all that special. Number 2. Giant Robot. Giant Robot is the sequel to Bucketheadland. No chapters this time. It doesn't contain the experimental guitar noise elements from the previous album and focuses on more regular songs. I listened to this one prior to the 31 Days of Buckethead, so I knew what I was getting into. It has a redone version of the park theme from the first album, which is cleaner sounding, but I prefer the original. But damn, do I love the standout tracks known as I Come in Peace, Buckethead's Toy Store, and Post Office Buddy. There are cameos from Iggy Pop and the actor Bill Moseley, who you might remember from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the unreleased sequel, All-American Massacre, which Buckethead did the music for and even played Leatherface in, and you've definitely seen Moseley in the Rob Zombie Firefly trilogy of films, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and Three from Hell. Overall, this album is better than the previous. It's just really good. Number 3. The Day of the Robot. The Day of the Robot is not at all connected to the Bucketheadland series. It is its own thing entirely. It's just made of 5 jam session type tracks, with Buckethead playing guitar, bass, and an electric drum kit. It's fire, if not a bit repetitive at times. Some standout tracks are Flying Guillotine and Quantum Crash. Overall, it's very good. I like the piano used on some of the tracks. Number 4, Colma. Colma is probably my favorite Buckethead album. It is amazing. It is all soft, light, breezy guitars, just really well layered guitars. It's peaceful and creative in how it's laid out. Some standout tracks are Whitewash, Ghost, Big Sur Moon, and Wishing Well. The album is probably most well known for the story behind it. Basically, Buckethead's mother was in the hospital, so he made an album for her to listen to. Also, to anyone wondering, she survived and made a full recovery. This album is really good. I like it a lot. Overall, amazing. Number 5, Monsters and Robots. How'd they know my 2 biggest fears? Monsters and robots. Monsters and Robots is one of Bucket's most well-known albums, and is frankly really, really good. It consists of songs similar to that off of Giant Robot. Some standout tracks are Jumpman, The Ballad of Buckethead, with bass guitar played by and sung by Les Claypool of Primus fame, with Primus's drummer, Brain, also appearing on the album. Another standout track is Sow Thistle, with Bootsy Collins singing on it, just like he did on Bucketheadland. And there's also Nunchakakata, and every other track. Every track on this thing is a banger. We'd be here all day if I just sat and talked through each. But this album is really good. There's a bonus track you can find on YouTube called Remote Viewer, and that's also pretty good. Overall, really great album. Number 6, Somewhere Over the Slaughterhouse. Somewhere Over the Slaughterhouse is somewhat similar to The Day of the Robot in the sense of it being a similar sound with an electric drum kit used for most of it and it being very jammy overall. It also has some keyboard elements like Day of the Robot. Some standout tracks are Buckethead's guitar cover of Somewhere Over the Rainbow from the 1939 film Wizard of Oz, Help Me, Pin Bones and Poultry, My Sheets, and Burlap Curtain. Seriously, this is a really good album. Lots of great tracks, overall really good. Number 7, Funnel Weaver. Funnel Weaver is hard to really review. The album is made up of 49 individual short as fuck tracks. None are over 3 minutes, most are under 2. None of the tracks are bad. But this use of extremely short tracks can cause the album to feel really jumbled, and it's an hour long. It feels like an album of interludes rather than songs. You know how a lot of bands will put 1 to 2 minute interlude tracks in between really big songs to have a sort of breathing room area in between and to have a good flow across the album? Yeah, imagine that, but that's the whole album. No idea is focused on long enough to really have any idea actually be fleshed out. The average track length is only 1 minute and 25 seconds roughly, and there's 49 of these things. This thing is again an hour long. It also means I really can't recommend specific tracks since they are all so short and on the same level of quality across the board. Good, but nothing to write home about. Overall, inoffensive. Number 8, Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle is a primarily electronica-focused album made with the producer and DJ Extracted. It consists of a lot of shorter tracks, but instead of them all being under 3 minutes and not feeling very fleshed out, most of them are at least over 2 minutes and on average are about 3 minutes each. It's pretty good, it's got some good groove and some good beats. Standout tracks for me on the album are Mausoleum Door, Sea of Expanding Shapes, Forbidden Zone, and 9/11, which was recorded on September 11th, 2001, after Buckethead heard about the attacks on the Twin Towers. In an interview, when talking about the song, he said, "If the world was going to blow up, I may as well go out soloing." Overall, really fucking good album. Number 9, Electric Tears. Electric Tears is very similar to Colma. It is all acoustic and electric guitar, and is a lot longer. It's an hour and 11 minutes. And it is in fact too long. It's a good album, but I really did not care for it as much as Colma. Colma was a lot more condensed and concise, while this one just kind of meanders around. Padmasana is 12 damn minutes, and there is not a lot to it. I really think Bucket should have cut it out entirely. In general, a lot of the songs are just a little on the long side. Most are at the very least 5 minutes, and there's not a ton of variety in the songs. I said the same thing in my review of Veins of Institution by Buckethead and Madeline Cyril Miller. Long songs are fine. They can be good, but you gotta have variety of lengths. It can't all be super long songs, and it can't be all super short songs. This is effectively the exact opposite of Funnel Weaver. It's a fine album, but it's not my favorite. Some standout tracks would be All in the Waiting, Sketches of Spain, Mustang, and Kansas Storm. Overall, it's a fine album. Number 10, Bucketheadland 2. Okay, now we're back on track with Bucketheadland 2. This is, in my opinion, his greatest achievement in music. While Colma is my favorite, I'm just impressed with this. The album consists of a bunch of shorter songs with some normal-length songs mixed in where it kind of tells a story. It's just a bunch of different perspectives of people who all work at the fictional theme park Bucketheadland. It's really cool. Some standout tracks are The Cobra's Hood, John Merrick, Elephant Man, Bones Explosion, and The Battery Cage Brawls. Cage announcer, The Ghost of Abraham Lincoln, Winner Has to Eat His Way Out. Overall, it's a really, really good album. It is super weird and I love it. Number 11, Island of Lost Mines. Island of Lost Mines is another album taking place in Bucketheadland, this time on the Island of Lost Mines. Who would have thunk it? Where only the most disturbed individuals work. Some highlights off the album are Shock Therapy, Sideshow, Bruised Eye Sockets, and the Cuckoo Parade. I really like this one. It's weird and fun, but overall it's an acquired taste at times. There's a lot of moments with really screechy guitars and really heavy sounds that you might not like if you're not into that kind of stuff, but I personally really liked it. Overall, good album. I lost my mind once. Found the bastard hiding under a frickin' porch. Had to coax it out with a box of fucking cheese nips. It was raining. It was not a fun day for me. Number 12, Population Override. Population Override is an album consisting of a whole bunch of blues rock jam sessions, and it is really good. Lots of variation in the music, fun riffs and hooks. It's just really good. Some standout tracks in the album are Too Many Humans, Population Override, and ... That's what it's called. It's just 3 periods. Also, there's some bonus tracks, but I cannot find them anywhere on the internet, and I couldn't find a copy of the album with them for a price that didn't make me want to have a fucking stroke. Overall, it's an amazing album, though. Number 13, The Cuckoo Clocks of Hell. The Cuckoo Clocks of Hell, presumably named after the over 3-hour cut of the 1973 exploitation horror film Last House on Dead End Street, but we're talking about the album, not the film. The album is really fucking good. Bar none some of Buckethead's heaviest work. I think this comment on YouTube said it best. Bucket sounds pissed, and that is very accurate. The album is just a straight adrenaline rush madness for nearly an hour. There are 17 tracks, which might sound like a lot, but unlike Funnel Weaver, where none of them feel fleshed out enough and make the whole album feel jumbled, Cuckoo Clocks has each track really flow well into the next, which makes everything feel extremely cohesive and well put together. Not to mention, there are a ton of unique riffs and stylistic ideas throughout to keep your mind and ears entertained for hours. For standout tracks, there are so many good ones, I'm just going to tell you to listen to the album. Seriously. They are all so good and so on par with each other. Listen to the album. It's a good album. Overall, really, really great album. Number 14, Enter the Chicken. Holy shit, Buckethead made an album search from System of a Down? Enter the Chicken is another one of Buckethead's most well-known albums. One of the tracks, Three Fingers, was featured on the Saw 2 soundtrack, and Serj Tankian of the band System of a Down also produced and released it under his record label, Surgical Strike Records. He also appears on several tracks. It's a pretty solid album. I'm not a huge fan of We Are One strictly because I never cared for Serj Tankian's singing style. Sometimes he sounds fine, sometimes he doesn't. It's an alright song, but I'm not a huge fan of the singing. The rest is great though. Standout tracks are Three Fingers, Fun Bus, and Nottingham Lace. Overall, pretty solid album. Seriously though, Three Fingers and Fun Bus are fucking amazing. There's also the bonus track, Chen Chi, which I am probably butchering that pronunciation. It's pretty good too. Number 15, Kaleidoscalp. Kaleidoscalp is, in my opinion, a really good album. It's very similar to the Cuckoo Clocks of Hell, except instead of a bunch of short tracks, it's a bunch of normal length tracks. It's really solid, there's nothing more to say. It's just a really solid album with some really good tracks. Some standout tracks are Frankensuce Laboratories, Rack Maintenance, and The Android of Notre Dame, which was originally called Dime and is a tribute to the late guitarist Dimebag Darrell of Pantera, who was killed in a shooting at a Pantera concert. The whole album is mixed very well, and overall is fun and cool. Number 16, Inbred Mountain. Inbred Mountain is really good, no bones about it, it may be my new favorite Buckethead album ever. It is really good. It is very creative with a ton of variation in styles throughout. It's got a slide whistle on the final track, also banjo. No standout tracks, just like Cuckoo Clocks of Hell, because just listen to it. It is all really good. Every track is on par with each other, and I cannot recommend it enough. Just listen to the album. Overall, absolutely splendid, jolly good show. Number 17, The Elephant Man's Alarm Clock. This album came out on my birthday.
On my birthday?
It's phenomenal. We really have hit a good stride in music. So many absolute bangers right after the other. This album is marvelous. So many cool ideas are thrown into this album. Standout tracks are going to be the TIE Fighter Swarm, Final Wars, Gigan, and Droid Assembly. Also, all 4 parts of Lurker at the Threshold as well. Overall, really fantastic album. Number 18, Crime Slunk Scene. Another really popular album of Buckethead's. This is another really solid album. Not my favorite, but it's not bad at all. It's just not my favorite comparatively to the other albums. I think it's got a ton of really good standout tracks though. King James, Mad Monster Party, Soothsayer, We Can Rebuild Him, but I don't know. I just really like the others a lot more. Again though, this album is great, and Soothsayer, mind you, is Buckethead's most popular song of all time. So, I mean, the album's got that working for it. Again, though, it's still really great. Overall, solid. Number 19, Pepper's Ghost. Pepper's Ghost is another solid album. Really good, quick and breezy. Not as good as Crime Slunk Scene, but still very enjoyable. The name comes from the Pepper's Ghost illusion that uses mirrors and light to project an image of a person on some kind of stage during a stage play or something similar. Standout tracks are Pepper's Ghost, Imprint, Goblin Shark, and Towel in the Kitchen. Overall, very solid album, very good. Number 20, Ghost Toast. I really liked Ghost Toast. It's a really fun album. I have the cover art in the Bandcamp version. It's a reference to the stretching room from the Disneyland and World Haunted Mansion ride. That's neat. The album is really good too, lots of fun tracks. A nice mix between both long and short songs. Standout tracks are going to be Materializing the Disembodied, Ghost Toast, I Can Only Carry 50 Chickens at a Time, and Sail on Soothsayer. Overall, really good. Number 21, Cyborg Slunks. Cyborg Slunks has a concept to it. If you look at the credits, you'll see the character of Albert from Bucketheadland 2 listed as Percussion Ensemble, and that ensemble is made up of the Cyborg Slunks on the cover. By the way, a slunk is in reference to a slunk calf, which means a cow that was born prematurely. Although any animal can be a slunk, it's just usually in reference to cows. Basically, these slunks are really bad at drums, so the first 2 tracks are Buckethead playing his ass off, with what sounds like a gaggle of toddlers smashing a bunch of pots and pans together. And while you might think that would be annoying, when you realize the context is actually kind of funny and neat. Also, the other 3 tracks are just regular Buckethead music. Standouts are going to be Reopening the Scapula Factory, Aunt Susie, and A New War is Underway. Overall fun, if not a bit weird. Number 22, Albino Slug. Albino Slug is another good album, extremely solid. Not as good as Ghost Toast, but still really good. It's got a snail theme to it, which is cool. Standout tracks are going to be Siege Engine, Dawn at the Deuce, Flea Flicker, Electric Bell Blanket, and the extended version of Forgotten Trail. Overall, really good, really heavy, really fun. Number 23, Slaughterhouse on the Prairie. Slaughterhouse on the Prairie is a sequel, to Somewhere Over the Slaughterhouse, I think. Besides the name, there isn't a ton similar between them. Really good heavy metal album, though. Very entertaining. Standout tracks are going to be LeBron, LeBron's Hammer, Iceman, Don't Use Roosts If You Raise Broilers, Pumpkin Pike, and Rack Maintenance 2. Overall, really good. Number 24, A Real Diamond in the Rough. This album is dedicated to Buckethead's lawyer. The album is a similar style to Colma and Electric Tears, except with an emphasis on heavier guitars sometimes. It's really solid. It might be even better than Colma. Some standout tracks are Broken Mirror, Big D's Touch. Yeah, laugh it up, fuzzball. Oh, and also the return of Captain EO is another standout track. The album is really good. The first half is decently fast, but then it slows down over time, with it ending with the loud, fast, and bombastic return of Captain EO. Overall, very good. Number 25, Forensic Follies. Forensic Follies is an album made entirely out of other songs by Buckethead. Basically, the dude remixes other songs and makes new ones with this super fun and unique sound that I quite dig. Some standout tracks are Forensic Follies, A-Cycle Light Ray Cannons, and Plunger. The album, because of how it was created though, can be a little repetitive after a while. Overall, still good. Number 26, Needle in a Slunk Stack. Needle in a Slunk Stack is the sequel to Forensic Follies, with the main distinction being that new drum tracks were used, specifically for the album. And I gotta say, I much prefer this over Forensic Follies. Basically, every song on the album is gold, but if I had to recommend some, the standout tracks would be Needle in a Slunk Stack, Carcass Cable, Furnace, and Astral Traveler. Overall, really good. Number 27, Shadows Between the Sky. Shadows Between the Sky is another of Buckethead's more mellow albums. It shares a lot of similarities with A Real Diamond in the Rough, and is a very good album all around. Standout tracks would have to be Shadows Between the Sky, Sled Ride, Cookies for Santa, Wax Paper, and Walk on the Moon, which is dedicated to Michael Jackson. Overall, really good. Number 28, Spinal Clock. Spinal Clock was disappointing, until I listened to it again. I was really sick when I first listened to it and was floating in and out of consciousness, so to me it just kind of sounded like a bunch of noise. Yeah, on closer inspection there's actual music in this. There's a lot of good stuff on this album. It is both a really good mix of normal banjo music and atmospheric weird shit that really works well together. Standout tracks are Lafayette's Landing, 4 O'Clock for Dub Down, Overnight the Animatronics, Ah! Oh no! It's Freddy Fazbear from the popular video games Five Nights at Freddy's, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, FNAF World, Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, and about 10,000 other spin-offs, books, and a movie series. Man, they really milked this franchise. Oh yeah, and Skeleton Dance is pretty good too. Overall, pretty good album. Number 29, Captain EO's Voyage. This album is space-themed. Captain EO's Voyage is a spacey-sounding soft rock album. It's pretty good. It's in a similar vein to A Real Diamond in the Rough or Shadows in Between the Sky. It's got some nice OG Star Trek soundtrack vibes that I really like. Standout tracks are Captain EO's Voyage, Stained Glass Hill, and Tarantula's Crossing. Overall, solid. Number 30, Electric Sea. Ooh, we in for some good shit. This is a really fucking good album. Like, hella fucking good. It's the sequel to Electric Tears, and like the best sequels, it's far better than its predecessor. It's got a really good flow, some good classical pieces thrown in, elements of spaghetti western scores, it's got it all. It's frankly fantastic. Standout tracks are going to be Beyond the Knowing, Point Doom, El Indio, and Buckethead. Overall, amazing. Number 31, Bucketheadland 5, 13-10-31. This is not Bucketheadland 3. This is more of a side project like Island of Lost Mines. It is a 30-minute metal album consisting of a 16-minute track and a 14-minute track. It's really good, but a lot of people didn't like it when it first came out because they thought it would be a sequel to Bucketheadland 2, and it was not. I get it, it's a little annoying, but I went into it knowing what it was and was pleasantly surprised. It's a really good album, even with its shorter length. Overall, really good. Man, it's really amazing how good these albums were. There were a couple I didn't like all that much, but I mean, there were 31 of these things. That's pretty wild. And there you have it, folks. The video I made because I was too sick to make the next one. And don't worry, that one will be out soon. It was just a little too physical for me to be able to physically do at the moment. Also, the next episode of the King Giz review will be out soon too. That technically all happened 6 months ago, but I lost all the footage, and I've just been compiling it into the different parts for each video until I can actually get it together. Unfortunately, though, it's on like 26 different flash drives. It's a whole thing. Graxx is editing it on a really shitty computer from the 2000s too, though, so it's taken a bit. I don't even know why he edits on that thing. We have a laptop from like last year.